One of the things about loving where you live is noticing where you live. I've found a tool that makes this super easy, and I want to introduce you to the idea of microseasons, how you notice them, what you do with them, and how they change your life. I'm Jackie Wolven, and I'm here to share tips on how to love where you live and love where you are. Let me take you into my kitchen of my small cottage and show you the tool that I use. I'll bring it back to the studio. It's a little lighter in here. But come on, let's take a walk. So what you'll see here is my perpetual microseason calendar that I designed for my own property. Yep, we call our property Camp Wilder. And so on this, each month is labeled. This is January through June, and on the back side is July through December. And then it's broken out into 7-day increments. It doesn't really matter what day things fall in, just the date. And so each week of that 7-day period, I am looking for what is happening in nature. And what I have found is the more I look, the more I notice, and I'm able to see things that really I just glossed over before. So here's an idea. So in January the 22nd and 28th, there was slippy, slidey mud. And then in February, the daffodils were popping up. And then in April, the oaks and maples started budding. I'm documenting all of it, both what I'm doing and what's happening in nature. So things that I've done is, here's birdseed that I put out, or I planted the peas. So this is sort of both what's happening in nature and how I'm relating to nature. And it's all about noticing. It's not all great either. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm only noticing the pretty things. My daughter laughed that in May, this line is biting flies, mini ticks, and gnats. Oh my. So it's not just, oh, I'm looking for the flowers or I'm looking for the way the trees bloom. I'm looking at all of it. And so I have every week done this, and then we'll continue on for the rest of the year. And where the joy is for me is in the noticing. But next year, the joy will be in seeing if these things are at the same time or at similar times. So that's why it's a perpetual calendar. It's above my coffee station so that I can just quickly write it in pencil. I'm not trying to make this look pretty. I'm trying to make this look useful. And so I have found that by noticing and the reward of knowing that next year I'll be able to go back and look, kind of like my own farmer's almanac, is an amazing thing. And I'm excited to see how it goes. So how did I get interested in this at all? I stumbled on the internet on this rabbit hole of an idea called Japanese microseasons. And I was delighted to see that they had broken up the year into distinct microseasons in very tiny increments. They have 82. I only did it by the calendar year just for ease. But the idea that life was happening in these smaller increments as opposed to big buckets. So we often think of the seasons, just the 4 seasons that we know, or we're even thinking monetarily, like in quarters, financial quarters, or even just years. And those are such broad swaths of time that you're missing what might be happening in those small increments. But I wanted a way to document it that was easy, that I would keep up with, and that would be sort of like a game and kind of enchanting. And so that is why I designed this one sheet to allow for me to document what I'm seeing. And it is a game. I am out there looking and identifying. I often use iNaturalist to take a photo of what I'm seeing so that I can name it specifically, which has gone on to, I have named so many of the natural elements in the place that I live that I had never done before. I'm also being more aware of what's happening in the natural world in general and my response to it. So I'm being aware of how I'm responding to the cold, or what I'm planting in the garden, or what we are getting out of the garden has also been in here. And I find both that mix of what's happening naturally and then how I'm responding to it has been just wonderful. And the real bonus for me is that I sort of made a game out of noticing, which makes me happier because I'm noticing. And I also think I'm going to win that reward in the second year where I get to re-notice and see if those things are happening. Will I hear the frogs peeping? Will I see the first robins? Will I see, the squirrels hiding the acorns? Will that happen at the same time? And it just makes it so that I'm being more thoughtful in my natural environment. And the more thoughtful I am, the less in my head I am, the less focused I am on maybe worldly problems that I can't actually make a change to. And I feel happier. And I know it seems like such a small thing, but the more tools and resources we can have to be happier, I am all for. So that's why I went down the path, is because I got an inkling that there was this idea of microseasons. And then I just felt like, how could I adopt it for my own life? Is this something that you would try in your own life? Are you noticing what's happening? Do you see the first things when they start to bloom or when they even start to fade? Does that make a difference for you, do you think? I have to be honest, even though I live in the woods, I wasn't paying attention. And this practice has helped me really pay attention. And that feels great. It means I'm engaged in my life right here. And the more I can do that, the better it is. Now, you don't have to design and print your own fancy micro-season calendar. It's not that important to have that. What is important is that you just notice, and you could do that just on a sheet of paper. You could do that on any kind of poster board. You could do that on really anything. The idea that you're just paying attention, this doesn't take any time. I take a walk multiple times a day, every day anyway. I'm out there, and so the extra time might be that I'm taking a photo of something and then identifying it, and then I'm writing it down. So maybe a minute, two at the most. So it isn't a practice that is a lot of energy. It just is a practice that I find delight, and the more delight, the better. But you might be saying, I live in a city, or I live in the suburbs and I just can't do this. I hear ya. I know that I live in the woods, and so this seems like a very simple thing. But I truly believe that even if you live in a suburban setting, which I grew up in and then lived in a city, so I know what it's like, I still think that there would be changes that you would be able to see. And maybe those changes are things like, I noticed the flowers blooming in the front yard, or my neighbor's irises have bloomed, or the trees are blooming on my way to work, or I noticed the geese flying overhead. It doesn't have to be something that is particular to the woods. This is about nature wherever it might happen. It may be that you find 17 dandelions growing in the cracks on the sidewalk on your summer walk. That would be worth noticing. It isn't about perfect, it's just about noticing and documenting, and the delight in that. And then, because it's a perpetual idea, in the following year, you'll be able to see, are the geese flying at the same time? Did the monarchs come back? Did the tree bloom at the same time? And you get to have a rhythm of life that is much different than some broad expanse. So I encourage you to use a tool, this tool, the microseason tool, or a tool that you come up with to notice in much smaller increments. Life isn't lived in years. Life is lived second by second, minute by minute. And for the most part, we're missing it because we're planning for the future or we're reminiscing in the past and we're not paying attention to what's happening right in front of us. And if I can come up with a tool that helps us do that, let's do it. So if this is something that you think you might adopt into your own life, I'd love to hear how you might make that happen. And if you're already paying attention, tell me that too. I'm super curious. And I just love the idea of taking a practice that has been done for centuries, honest, and then adapting it into modern life. That feels in a way reverent too. And I love that connection, and I love the idea that we're bringing something forward in a new way. And I just love this practice. So I did this for my daughter too. I made one for her and gave it to her, and she's doing it on her property. And she travels a bunch, so it'll only be when she's at home or when she remembers. But that cataloging on her own property of what's happening has been an exciting thing for her too. And so that's why I know that it's kind of a cool thing. It's not just my own sort of harebrained idea. There's some value into noticing the very small things that are happening within our natural world. Thanks for watching, and if you're interested in other tools about loving where you live, I'm here for it, and I'm here to share everything I have learned over the years, everything I try, everything that I think might cause delight. And so like, comment, but most of all, subscribe. Thank you. Thanks for being here.